let's move on to the second part of the author's argument, which is that all women should suffer for the punishment for sin that they did not commit. Essentially, they suffer for their ancestors' sin. That's one of the misconception the author has. So I don't know if we should call it a misconception or a lack of understanding of what exactly it means.
That's right. Yes. So again, same case here. It's not just the women who are going to bear the punishment or the consequence of their ancestors' sin. It's same for all men as well. All men today toil and work hard, and they sweat and they struggle. So it was not just Adam who struggled, all men. And it was not just Eve who had labor pains, all women. So again, this is not a matter of sexism, but I think the issue the author is trying to point out here is one of transference of punishment. I was not there at the Garden of Eden, so why should I be punished? Right. Why should I suffer? That is the point. Now this again, we should look at the role of Adam and Eve, or Adam as the leader or head of the entire mankind. The Bible clearly talks as Adam and Eve being the first parents, Adam being the head of mankind, was a responsible individual for the entire mankind. Just as how we would say the leader of a country or a nation or a state, how he makes a decision and that impacts every citizen in that country. For example, our Prime Minister has now called for a national lockdown, and we are all sitting at home. Our plans are all changed. We can't go out anywhere. We can't do things the way we like. Why? We didn't make the decision, but the head or the leader of a country made that decision for us, and we are all bearing the consequences. So this is not limited to the Bible or to the first parents. We see that this has impact everywhere, even in our families. The decisions as parents we make, where to live, right, what job to take, where to send our children to school. So all these things affect all our children, not only the negative, but also the positive decisions that we make. This is not of Adam and Eve. It's in the case of everyone who's under a leadership, and they take a decision that affects everyone who's dependent on them.
Right. Unfortunately, our decisions have consequences, repercussions, and sometimes well beyond ourselves. So this explains this particular point we are discussing. So here's an interesting one, Sharon. According to the author, Genesis 3:16 says that all women must suffer great pains during childbirth due to eating the fruit. And she says, as if it is somehow just that humans should pay for their ancestors' sin, nor is a woman dying in labor somehow befitting of a crime she did not commit. So the verse finishes off by saying, the husband shall rule over his women, stripping us of all power in between the sexes. So let's discuss the background here a bit.
Yeah, because this is something that causes a lot of confusion among every one of us. I would not want to just point out the author, but this is a matter of confusion for many of us. So as you rightly said, we need to discuss the background. Now, the context here is the context of family or marriage. God made husband and wife. As we already saw, wife was supposed to be a suitable helper for the husband. So in divine design, husband was the leader of the home and wife was a helper, complementing him and thereby completing the family. Now, this itself is a concept that many of us do not like to accept. But if you look at any unit of society, take for instance a company, whether it's an IT company or a pharma company, wherever we are working, we have leaders or position or a project manager or a team manager, those who are in authority over us. If everyone in an organization had the same role, it would be a deficient, inefficient, chaotic place to be. So God, in the smallest unit of society that he himself instituted, put man in leadership, but not as a tyrant, not as a despot, but as a loving leader who would lead his family, and wife being his helper to complete and complement with equal worth and value. So that is God's original design.
Right.
But when sin came into the
picture,
became a struggle. And would have been a loving leader. When there was no sin, he would have led his wife and loved her and served her as a leader. But now, because of sin, the loving, serving element of it is corrupted. He wants to enforce his rule over her. In the same way, the woman who would be submissive or who would help her husband wholeheartedly now has a struggle. Now she wants to be in authority over her man,
And
toppling
rule over
the authority
him, yeah.
and rule over him. So the context is how sin has affected man and woman. They both became corrupted, and thereby the roles that they play also in a way became corrupted, or they were unable and they struggled to fulfill the roles that God gave them, and it became a struggle for them. So that is the context of this verse.
Right. Thanks for pointing that out. And I would like to highlight two more points from the other statement. One on women suffering for the ancestor's sin, which we already discussed, like we spoke about transference of punishment in our previous point. And the second point is women dying in labor. That's what the author mentions. Nowhere in the biblical text of Genesis chapter 3 verse 16 talks about a curse that women receives where women would die in labor. Let me just read it. Genesis chapter 3 verse 16. To the women he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, but he shall rule over you. So it only talks of pain in labor.
That's right.
As the author claimed or mentioned in her article, if God intended that women should die in labor, women dying in labor is a befitting to crime, as the author claims, then there would be no women left on the face of the earth now. Like all the women in labor should have been dead now. Right?
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So then I think, this misconception falls apart on its own as we clearly read. So with this, we wrap up different misconceptions. We discussed about 3 misconceptions the author has put together on this website, on this article, where she claims Torah is sexist. And based on our discussion and reading into the text and understanding the background, we realize that Torah is not sexist indeed. And in fact, we could see God's grace even in the midst of a curse.
That's right. That's beautiful. Yes.
And so with this, goodbye till we meet again in another episode to discuss on the remaining misconceptions on sexism in Torah from the evilbible.com. So keep watching.